It all started with a knock on my door, just a week after I finished building the fence. I opened it to find Karen from the HOA, arms crossed, clipboard in hand. And that look on her face, the one that tells you this conversation isn't going to be friendly. "Your fence is too tall," she said flatly, without even saying hello. I tried to explain, calmly, that it wasn't just a regular fence. I didn't build it for looks or even for privacy. I built it for safety. But she didn't want to hear it. Now, here's the thing about Karen. She's not just any neighbor. She's the self-appointed queen of our HOA. Always the first to report someone for leaving their trash. Cans out 5 minutes too long or planting flowers that aren't in the color guidelines. But this time, her usual nitpicking wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. Because what she didn't know is that just a few nights earlier, I had spotted a bear walking through our neighborhood. Not once, but twice. And the second time, it was headed straight toward the path that runs right behind Karen's backyard. I built that fence higher than usual on purpose, not to block the view or break some rule, but to keep something out. Something big, unpredictable, and very real. But Karen, of course, didn't care about that. All she saw was a violation of the sacred HOA handbook. She gave me a notice right then and there. Either lower the fence to regulation height or face a fine. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her everything. But something told me to wait. Because sometimes people like Karen don't believe words. They need to see things for themselves. And as fate would have it, she was about to get a visit from the very reason I built that fence in the first place. A few days after that warning from Karen, started getting letters from the HOA, official ones. The kind printed on that thick paper with the HOA logo at the top, like it's coming from a courthouse or something. They gave me 10 days to modify the fence or face a daily fine. I'll admit, I was frustrated, not because I had to deal with the HOA, but because I was trying to keep everyone safe, including Karen. But no one seemed to care about that part. All they saw was a 6.5-foot fence where the rules said 5. The thing is, our neighborhood backs right up to a stretch of forest. Not some cute little park, actual woods. You hear coyotes at night, sometimes see deer running through yards, and yeah, lately, bears. I live on the edge of the cul-de-sac, so my yard is closest to the tree line. When I saw that bear the first time, it was just after midnight. I was taking out some trash and caught it in the motion lights, just lumbering through like it owned the place. My heart was pounding. The second time, it came even closer. That's when I decided to build the fence. Not just for me, but because the bear was heading in the direction of the street where Karen lives. I didn't even tell anyone about the bear right away. I figured it would spook people, or they wouldn't believe me. But after the second sighting, I installed a motion camera and started keeping a closer watch. That's when I realized it wasn't just one bear. There were 2. Maybe even a cub with them. And they were getting braver, wandering closer to houses, sniffing around for food. Still, Karen was more concerned about the fence than what it was keeping out. She even told the HOA board I was setting a bad example by not following the guidelines. But the weird part? A few of the other neighbors started asking questions. A few even thanked me quietly for the extra protection. Karen, though, she stayed loud. And she had no idea what was coming. About a week later, things really started heating up. I came home from work one evening to find a small group of neighbors gathered at the edge of my property near the fence. Karen was in the middle, pointing at something on the ground like she was leading a crime scene investigation. I walked over, and she immediately turned to me with that same clipped tone. "This is exactly why we have rules," she said, waving her hand toward the fence. But what caught my eye wasn't her. It was the huge paw print in the dirt just a few feet from where she stood. One of the neighbors, Tom, leaned in closer. "That's a bear print," he said quietly. Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Probably just a dog. But you could tell the others weren't so sure. I didn't say anything right away. I just unlocked my phone and showed them the footage. A massive black bear caught on camera, sniffing along the back fence line around 2 a.m. It wasn't aggressive, just curious. But it was big, and it was close. That changed the mood. People got quiet. Karen, though, doubled down. Even if there was a bear, she said, you still broke the HOA code. We can't just let people build whatever they want because of a wild animal. That's when Mrs. Langford from 2 doors down spoke up. But isn't that the exact reason we should be flexible? This is a safety issue, not just about aesthetics. It started a mini debate right there in my yard. Some neighbors sided with Karen, others weren't so sure anymore. One guy even mentioned maybe updating the HOA guidelines for wildlife safety. But Karen wasn't having it. She stormed off, muttering something about escalating the issue to the county. Meanwhile, I was still getting those warning letters. The fines hadn't started yet, but they were coming. And while all this neighbor drama was brewing, the bears didn't seem to care. In fact, the next time I checked the motion cam, there were 3 of them. A mama bear, 2 cubs, a tay. And they were getting bolder by the day. The HOA deadline was down to just 2 days. I was waking up every morning wondering if this would be the day the fines started hitting. My phone buzzed constantly with emails from the board, each one colder than the last. Karen had clearly kicked her campaign into high gear. She even went as far as to suggest that if I didn't lower the fence, the HOA would bring in legal action. Meanwhile, I was more concerned about what was lurking just beyond that tree line at night, every evening. I checked the motion camera footage like it was a routine security briefing. The bears were coming closer. They had started moving up and down the backyards along the edge of the woods. You could see the cubs climbing up on garden boxes and knocking over trash cans. One clip showed the mother bear standing on her hind legs, sniffing the top of my fence. If I had built it just a few inches shorter, she could have cleared it without much effort. But what really shook me was a clip from just after 4 a.m. The camera had picked up motion in the yard behind mine. Karen's. There they were. The mother bear and her cubs padding softly across her lawn. No fence, no motion light, nothing to stop them. And Karen? She had a habit of leaving food scraps out for the neighborhood cats. I saw a small plate of something sitting right on her porch. I debated waking her up, but I didn't. I just watched helplessly as the bears sniffed around, pawed at her garbage bin, and slowly wandered off back into the woods. I saved the footage, but I didn't say a word the next morning. That afternoon, Karen showed up at my door again, this time furious. I heard you've been showing videos around, scaring people, she snapped. You're just trying to stir up fear so you can keep your ugly fence. I stared at her, completely speechless. She still had no idea what had happened, just a few hours earlier in her own backyard. But something told me she was about to find out. I let Karen finish her rant, standing there on my porch, her face red with frustration. She said the HOA would be doing a surprise inspection the next day. And if the fence wasn't cut down to regulation height, I'd start getting fined. No more warnings. I stayed calm, but inside, I was torn. I didn't want to fight with my neighbors. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. And that's when I decided it was time to show her the footage. I opened my phone, pulled up the clip from 4:03 a.m. Hen held it out without saying a word. She hesitated, then looked down. I watched her face shift from smug to confused, then to pale. That's my backyard, she muttered. Voice dropped. That's my porch. Her eyes stayed glued to the screen as the bear nosed around her recycling bin and the cubs knocked over the cat food dish. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she handed the phone back, completely silent. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally understand. But instead of backing down, she did something I didn't expect. That night, someone from the county came by. An actual inspector, not HOA County. Turns out, Karen had filed a wildlife nuisance report on me. She claimed that I was encouraging the bears to return by leaving food out and building a structure that might be interfering with their natural patterns. I was shocked. I'd done the opposite. I'd been the one cleaning up, locking trash bins, and warning people. Now, I wasn't just dealing with HOA threats. I was looking at a potential citation from the county. The inspector said they'd be reviewing my camera footage and possibly investigating further. Karen had twisted the story, and now I was under scrutiny. That night, the bears came back. The mother bear, alone this time, wandered right past Karen's back patio again. But this time, something was different. The motion camera caught it. A sound, a creak, then a crash, and suddenly, I realized, ... The bear wasn't just passing through anymore. Something had changed. Something was drawing her closer. The crash I heard on the camera wasn't just a trash bin tipping over. It was the bear breaking through Karen's flimsy wooden gate, the same one she insisted didn't need reinforcement. I didn't realize it until my phone started buzzing again, this time with a call from Tom, my neighbor across the street. SH.